The third and final phase of the High Republic is about to begin in earnest with the novel The Eye of Darkness by George Mann. Even though we've been getting stories in this era for years now, I've still seen some questions from fans who are interested but confused by what it's all about. Specifically, I've seen a lot of people asking what the difference is between the High Republic and the Old Republic, which is a valid question, so today I'm going to very quickly clear that up. According to the Star Wars Timelines reference book, the Old Republic era starts about 20,000 years before the events of A New Hope with the formation of an alliance between several core worlds including Coruscant, Corellia, and Alderaan. This was right at the dawn of hyperspace travel. As more and more of the galaxy was explored by those planets, the alliance grew. The Jedi Order began to work alongside those planets, and everything was pretty cool for about 15,000 years until the Sith Order fractured out of the Jedi. Then there were lots of problems, with the Jedi and the Republic fighting against the Sith Order, which lasted another 4,000 years. When the Sith were finally defeated once and for all, the alliance of planets reorganized into an official galactic republic with a senate and everything. So the time of the Old Republic goes from 20,000 years before the Battle of Yavin up until 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. The High Republic era occurred after all of that, when the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order were both at their idealistic height, like the golden age of the galaxy. Again, according to the Timelines reference book, that era started about 500 years after the end of the Sith Wars. This was a time of great expansion for the Republic as they ventured deeper into the Outer Rim. That doesn't mean there weren't any Outer Rim planets that were discovered before then. In fact, we know of several worlds the Republic already made contact with, but still, much of the galaxy was unknown to the core worlds, and so the Republic and the Jedi helped establish new hyperspace lanes to help bring their prosperity to more and more worlds. That led to a conflict with a group of marauders called the Nile, which was somewhat limited to a specific corner of the Outer Rim, so it wasn't a galactic conflict on the same level as the Sith Wars or the Clone Wars, but it was still significant. The High Republic era ends about 100 years before the Battle of Yavin, so the primary difference between the Old and High Republic eras is timing. The High Republic was centuries before the events of the Star Wars films, and the Old Republic was millennia before. It should also be noted that most of the Old Republic era has been told in legend stories like Knights of the Old Republic, the Old Republic MMO, and so on. The Star Wars canon hasn't really touched that era yet. I think that's partially because, even though it's legends, the MMO is still being updated. I also think that whenever the canon does get into Old Republic storytelling, Lucasfilm will want to make it a big deal. I think they know that era means a lot to people. It sounds like we'll be easing into it with James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, but even that will be thousands and thousands of years earlier than what most fans think of when it comes to the Old Republic. I would say most fans immediately jump to the Knights of the Old Republic point in the timeline, about 4,000 years before the events of A New Hope. And by the way, some of those characters, like Revan, have been named in canon stories, so it's kinda like those games exist in a canon gray area right now. I wanted to clear this up because I see a misconception over and over again that the High Republic is like a replacement in the timeline for the Old Republic, which is absolutely not the case. It's a completely different era that was barely ever touched in the Legends timeline, so it was a perfect point to explore without stepping on any toes. Because the Legends Old Republic era means so much to so many fans, I get the impression Lucasfilm is actively trying to not mess with it, and instead they've been letting BioWare continue the story within the MMO. But that's it for today. Hopefully that clears up any confusion as we head into the beginning of the end for the High Republic Publishing Initiative. But even though Phase 3 will conclude that story, we also have The Acolyte, and I'm sure more Star Wars stories on the way that will continue to flesh out that era. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for all our High Republic coverage, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.